First off, why Coriolanus? This is considered to be more obscure Shakespeare, seldom performed, and you take it to the big screen and turn it into an action movie.
Well, I played it on stage some years ago, and I think it's an extraordinary piece. I think its reputation as being a difficult piece comes from the text. Its full text is got passages which are pretty hard. But I think as a narrative, it's superb, dynamic structure. Operates like a political thriller, essentially, with this sort of Greek tragic mother-son, that dynamic at the centre of it. And I just thought that if you could cut it intelligently and quite aggressively, you were left with this very lean, sinewy drama about the crisis of authority. And I think the piece is always relevant. I think this play, politically, is always provocative. And I think particularly now, with the economic uncertainty we're seeing in the world, which is the background to the story, there's always continual horrific conflict in the world. I think there's so many themes in this which I think certainly speak to us today.
Oh, yeah. Especially the theme of, or his storyline seems to be, especially as impressed by his dear mummy, is that it's military strength and violence for glory's sake, not for the people's sake. He's contemptuous of the people.
He's defined by being a soldier. I think he's someone who's only ever been brought up and conditioned and prepared for a life in service. So I think there is that where the military mind sometimes has an impatience with the civilian mind. I think that's a lot to do with the way the psychology of soldiers, warriors, it's built up to have a kind of intolerance for the necessary negotiation of civilian life, the listening to each other's views, the sharing, the compromises of how we get on with each other. I think extreme warriors like Coriolanus haven't got that ability. And his mother, as you mentioned, is a key figure. I think she's conditioned him like this. I think what I love about the play is that Shakespeare shows us this hard, steely man with the contempt for the people, then introduces the mother and allows us to see and understand why he is like he is. And then people try to get him to negotiate or go out and talk to the people, which he actually does. Doesn't do it very well, but he does it. And then people change their minds. The image I've always had, he's like a horse, like a sort of thoroughbred that's been trained in a very precise way to be ridden in a very particular way. And suddenly the trainer of that horse, who's conditioned it, suddenly changes the rules. The mother says, go back and talk to them, and if she does, and it blows up in his face, and then finally at the end, she is the person who breaks him. And the tragic sort of levels of that are brilliant, because of course in breaking him, he's broken, but he's humanized, and he makes peace. A man of war makes peace at his mother's feet, for which he dies. And I always found that profoundly moving whenever I've seen the play.
And speaking of kneeling, the final scene between him and his mother, where she comes to him and she implores him to make peace with Rome, and she kneels before him, and she kneels before this monster she's created, and she is in effect saying, "Show the humanity I never taught you."
Exactly.
But is it normally staged that way? Does mother usually prostrate herself before the son on stage, or?
Well, like any theatre production, the interpretations are infinite. So I think it can be, she could prostrate herself. The kneeling is in the text.
Oh, it is, okay, yeah.
Constantly, the references to kneeling are there, so either you take them out or we chose to follow them. And I thought there's a kind of ancientness to this appeal. He is seated. And actually, the directions are very specific. Often in Shakespeare plays, the stage directions are kind of, they come in, they go, or there's a shout, but this is all, she kneels, he kneels, and then there's this amazing, it's there, he holds her by the hand, silent, when just before he says, "Oh, mother, what have you done?" But no, I think she certainly physically abases herself.
Yeah. The scene is, of course, magnificent. You would think this film, full of all these action scenes and all of this visual drama and activity, that would upstage everything in this movie, but instead the drama upstages this film with that
I
confrontation.
think that scene is amazing piece. I mean, amazing scene. But if it is amazing, it's because of the build up before.
Mm-hmm.
So the intransigence of Coriolanus and the sort of compacted rage against the people and then against his own party, and then finally, actually, I think towards his mother. But it's he's at a breaking point, but you only get there if you've gone through everything else before.
Sure.
So,
But of course, Vanessa Redgrave is magnificent in that
She's
scene,
incredible.
and you directed this. This was your directorial debut. Tell us about directing that scene, because that is a wonderful challenge for you as a first-time director to bring out the drama in this, to get it in a cinematic format, and dealing with this great talent.
well, I had been to this location, which is an old sugar factory in Belgrade, which I fell in love with for this, the Volscian, the sort of encampment. It's just got a wonderful texture to it, and I've been there many times, walking, mapping out, this is where the chair would be, she'd come in here. So I had, if you like, the essential choreography and the placing of the scene very much in my mind, and then we rehearsed it one afternoon at length with Vanessa, showing her what I suggesting, what I thought that. I mean, it's essentially quite simple. I mean, it's a man sitting and a mother comes, and I think that they have to be opposite each other. So I think it's, once they're engaged opposite each other, then everything falls into place. Although then she gets up, and then he makes a move to go. So then it shifts a bit, and then they're kneeling. So, but I kind of rehearsed it many, many times, and then it was just the challenge of the coverage of it, because the angles got quite complicated, I think.
Okay.
I mean, once we're at the beginning, when she's opposite each other, it's quite reasonably straightforward, but once he gets up and she follows and he goes around, and then I remember it being quite a challenge to hold all the different angles progressively in my head. But I mean, Vanessa is extraordinary. She was always my first choice to play Volumnia. She's always moved me profoundly as an actress, and as a woman too. She's an extraordinary spirit. The genius of her performance, I feel, is the sort of the levels of intimacy that she carries in it. A woman who has a very strong authoritarian view, a woman who's been in the military, who's, as you said, brought up her son to be this extreme warrior, but she carries so much sort of humanity in and around the values of Volumnia, which are quite extreme, but she humanizes it at the same time, and I think it makes it incredibly moving and potent. And the great thing that she discovered in that scene was, I think I suggested that she comes in, when she does kneel, it was some distance from this barber's chair that is his throne, but then she said, no, I think I need to be closer to you. And of course that was extraordinary, because suddenly she broke through the formality of distance into the mother looking right into her son's soul. And of course, as Coriolanus, I felt that closeness and proximity very disturbing. And then she just talked like only a mother can talk to a son, which is that quiet, right in the eyes, and I listen. This is what we have to do, and that completely sort of got under my skin. And then, of course, she leads that scene. She carries the scene through to this sort of moment of angry rejection of him. It's an amazing scene, because Volumnia, Vanessa does it brilliantly. She tries so many different tacks. Speak to me, son, speak to me. Why do you not speak? And then finally she says, you're no son of mine, and you're the son. Basically accuses him of being a bastard child. And that's the final thing. She curses him, and that's the thing that makes him go.
Right. You've been in front of a camera for so many years, and now took the trip behind the camera. Was it different than you anticipated? Was it more difficult? Was it easier? What's your conclusion after actually having directed a film?
I think I felt quite quickly quite at home behind the camera. I felt it didn't feel. I've been on many sets, and so I think I felt once I had, we were making our days, and the footage was looking good, and people were around me. I knew from film sets that if something's not gelling, producers, everyone, people feel it quickly. A crew feels very quickly if the day is slow, if things are getting stuck. Of course, professionalism carries you through. But there's nothing like the energy of a crew feeling we're moving forward, we're making our days, performances are coming in and producing. The collective sense of us forward momentum helps the atmosphere. And of course, when we were able, thanks to everyone's efforts, to make that happen, then my own confidence grew sort of incrementally with it, or in proportion to that. But there were days when it was very, very hard. The acting Coriolanus in complex scenes where emotions are important and many, many people and a lot of coverage, that was a hard challenge. So sometimes when the days came up, the few days that there were when I wasn't on camera were kind of a blessed relief.
Well, congratulations. It's a terrific film.
Thank you very much. Thanks.